Story 1. Humans utilize zero-F energy. I call to order the latest meeting regarding the study of the human race, Grog declared, thumping a gavel against the table. Has anything new been brought to the attention of the order? Shakily, a feathered wing was raised. I have discovered something. Grog focused his gaze onto the Shagrian, a bipedal bird-like species famed for its weakness but brilliant mind. Please do share what you have found. Thank you, Council Member Grog. What I have discovered may explain how the humans have spread so far and fast compared to the other races upon their entry to the intergalactic stage. Is it not their Deathworld status? A rock-like Gundle asked. Yes, it was that idea that we posited that could explain how they could spread so fast. But I have interacted with a few humans recently. They were but juveniles, barely in their teenage years. But they explained how to me. Ah, yes, the young are often prone to bragging despite elders' commands for secrecy. Pray tell, what did the young ones reveal? Grog asked. They said humans harness zero-F energy. Zero-F energy? A squid-like Ploxididian echoed. Do they mean they have harnessed cold fusion? For a race as young as this one, harnessing fusion at 0 degrees is impressive beyond imagination. No, it wasn't cold fusion. They still use primarily fission and hot fusion reactors. Ah, I know, a Canada barked, snapping his fingers. They have somehow harnessed zero friction energy. The ability to remove all friction would maximize their energy efficiency to the degree of the ancients. The Shagrian shook his head. No, it's not zero friction energy either. Sheepishly, a small Terran raised a paw. Is it perhaps fun energy? They have found a way to cut out all fun and focus on serious endeavors? Ridiculous, Grog roared. All in attendance knew humanity was an absurd race. To think they were being serious was something that could not be fathomed even by the maddest of beings. You are along the right lines there with fun, the Shagrian's words caused a fresh stir throughout the meeting. You see, when I asked the younglings to explain, they explained that the F stood for the word fuck. So they do not have sex, a Grundle asked. If only, if anything, we project they have way too much of it, the squid-like Ploxididian replied. You see, the word is fascinating. It has many uses. In this instance, it is not sex, but care. They don't care? Grog asked. Exactly. Apparently, to give zero fucks, the humans throw all caution and care to the stellar winds and just move ahead with very little planning. Absurd, they must be planning to move ahead, Grog argued. I agree they must have. But it seems they just kind of do things to see what happens. Grog pondered what had been revealed. So their genius settling of the Shundite Nebula? Simply them going to see what it was like there. And the epic victory over the Spratos? Pure dumb luck. So they don't care at all. I wouldn't say that. Humans do have another colorful saying. Fuck around and find out. This means that if you mess around, you will discover the consequences rather quickly. It just seems that they have weaponized this attitude for progress. I see, Grog muttered. I think it best we give the race a wide berth for now. Best not fuck around, only to be on the receiving end of their zero fucks energy. I will say, though, that it may be worthwhile integrating this word into our collective lexicon. All in favor? Story 2. Because it is in my nature. Vrel looked out across what once was the capital of his people's empire. An empire that had once spanned 100 systems over countless worlds. So many had been placed under their rule, and so many had learned of their greatness. But now it was naught but a broken ruin. Piles of rubble laid to waste by a race that hadn't even been the tiniest of blips on the scale of the empire's reckoning. A world so small and insignificant that it didn't even need a legion to conquer initially. How far they had come since the first conquest. It didn't take long for them to be integrated into the Empire's structure, some as slaves working the many resource worlds, their hardy nature from them being a part of a death world enabling them to survive in a wide range of climates. Others worked as diplomats, their unique vocal cords and mouths allowing them to speak many languages as fluently as a native speaker. Something that had long been thought impossible without cybernetic augmentation. Even now it seemed almost like a bad joke that the humans had won. He still remembered when the first report of a human uprising crossed his desk. He laughed. He had actually laughed at these little things standing up to them. Oh, how foolish the elite had been. Vrel still pondered if only they had taken a moment to study the race's history. If for even one moment they would have seen how soaked with blood humanity's history truly was. Wars amongst many of the races under the Empire's sway were quick things, done between a single harvest season. But these humans did not rest. They were a race truly mired in an ocean of their own blood. The most terrifying thing was they knew they were good at it. "Sir?" Vrel blinked as he looked down at his assistant. The poor Cloakses had clearly been trying to get his attention for a while. Vrel bowed his head slightly as he looked at his aide. "Apologies. This one was lost in thought. I can't help but feel this could have been avoided," he explained, gesturing to the ruins. "Maybe, sir," his aide said with a slightly mirthful smirk. Vrel chose not to reprimand him for the disrespect. The Cloakses had long since been a part of the Empire's workings. It was easy to forget there was a time when all were not subordinate to Vrel's people. But the humans fought in rather unique ways. Vrel could only nod. Indeed, it was the truth. Humankind had lacked the power to oppose them at first. So, as the humans put it, they rolled over. They let themselves be integrated, not out of loyalty or fear, but due to cunning. Many a primitive race had been conquered, but humanity was the first to use their conquest as a means to grow stronger. As with their willful integration, they were gifted with technology. They could traverse the borders of the Empire more freely. They gained weapons to deal with the pirate brigands. If only those gifting could have recognized the predators were sharpening their fangs and claws, waiting to strike. "They were like brigands at first," Vrel commented. "Indeed, sir. Many hit-and-run tactics." "Well-coordinated tactics," Vrel corrected. The humans had learned and studied the technology. Vrel's people had put it to enthusiasm to serve or a desire to aid the Empire by lowering maintenance costs. Little did they know they were looking for weaknesses. It had started with fringe forces, though. A short raid here, a quick attack there. Nothing too major to be anything but rogue elements. But humanity used its skills well. While working as diplomats and translators, it began poisoning the system from within. A mistranslated word here or there can mean the difference between a world joining a fight or not. The war, though, truly began when all humanity rose up. Along with countless allies, they had turned against the Empire. What had at first been thought to be a simple rogue group became a massive civil war. A war led by humanity in its countless centuries of spilling blood. "You know, my children used to have nightmares about the humans' arrival," Vrel commented. "They were terrified of the great humans coming to gobble them up." "I assure you we would never do that," a new voice declared as he approached the pair. "Ah, Captain Luke." "Yes, Sir Vrel." The human nodded with a smile. "How goes the rebuilding?" Vrel asked, looking behind him at the parts of the capital the humans were helping rebuild. "Well, in on schedule. Some of the other races are grumbling, but we made it clear this is our way." "Destruction and construction?" the Cloakses asked. "You could say that. It could be that if we ease the suffering of war, an enemy today could be an ally tomorrow. Personally, I think it's rather simple." "How so?" Vrel asked. "You have had a chance to read about our history and culture. Have you come across the fable of the frog and the scorpion?" "I know of the creatures, but not the tale." "Simple enough story. There's a frog hopping along the shore of a great big river. When he meets a scorpion, the scorpion asks the frog to carry him across. Frog rightly asks, 'What if you sting me?' The scorpion points out they would both drown if he did." Vrel nodded to this. "Yes, a foolish concern." Luke nodded. So the frog lets the scorpion climb on his back and begins to swim across. But halfway across, he feels a sharp pain in his back. Then another and another. The scorpion had stung him. "Why?" Vrel asked. That's exactly what the frog asked, and it is the crux of why we destroy and rebuild. Why are we so good at violence and peace? Because the scorpion said to the frog, "Because it is in my nature." Put simply, Vrel, we cannot help who we are. Maybe I can have hope for this new era. Humanity guides things in all. I understand my children have even played with some human children, Vrel said with a color of melancholy as he looked back to the ruined half of the city. Story 3. The Human Mage's Staff. Months of planning had led up to this moment, including countless long nights of bribing guards and making the right contacts to get them the window they needed to complete the first step of their mission. You sure that'll work? Jack, the group's newest member, asked, looking around. Bert narrowed his eyes as he looked at Jack. I know what you are thinking, but this is a plan the sinful lords approved of. I know that, boss. It's just that this guy is meant to be really powerful, right? Jack, we have worked more than enough to clear the way. Hank and Clinton are causing a ruckus to distract the nearby guards. Sheila is meanwhile keeping the local captain happy with the wine. We have a clear path now. I know, but you didn't answer my question. Bert let out a long sigh. Yes, Jack, he is truly powerful, one of the most powerful mages currently calling the Holy Continent home, apprenticed under the former sinful lord of gluttony before he turned traitor. But it won't matter. Why not? We have been over this, Jack, Bert replied in a frustrated hiss. He is incapable of channeling his mana externally without his staff. It is why we have gone out of our way to steal the blasted thing. Now will you shut up? The maid is about to open the back door and we can sneak through. Meekly nodding after Bert's admonishment, the pair made their way through the shadows of the alleyway leading to the local mage's tower, an imposing building that left all in its shadow during the day. Looking at the delivery door, they knew from the schedule that it would be open any minute now. With a long creak, the door slowly opened, and a woman carrying a basket with food to be donated made her way out. Now, Bert shouted as he and Jack both rushed the unprepared woman, forcing her back into the building before the door could close. Jack, check the detector, Bert ordered as he held a hand over the struggling woman's mouth to muffle her attempts to call for help. Obeying the order, Jack took out a small device that looked like a pocket watch. Opening the front, a blue glow emanated from the device. We're all clear. No wards were triggered. Good. Now to you, Bert muttered, turning to face the terrified woman. I can see from your pupils you are a werebeast of some kind. It's good for you the theocracy is being more accepting of your kind. So I will make you a deal. I will cast sleep on you, and you will sleep through what we are planning. In response, the woman began to thrash as fur began to form on her face. Alternatively, I can just kill you. I'd rather not, but if needs must. A spark of terror shot through the woman's eyes as the forming fur receded. Good choice, Loomis Rex. With a flick of his hand, a small magic circle of light formed on his hand, casting the sleep spell upon the woman. Bert never liked it when the job required stuff like this. He was a thief, not an assassin. As the last of the consciousness faded from the woman, he gently lowered her to the floor. Okay, phase 1 is done, Bert muttered. Where to now, boss? Jack, Bert began, showing utter disbelief across his face. We went over this like a dozen times? Oh, right, boss. I was just, testing you. Yeah, testing. Sure. Bert wondered why they had even sent this man to join their group. Had it not been required by the ones paying them, they would have long ago abandoned the man. We will make our way to the main hall. That's where the guy keeps his staff. The magic stick, gotcha, Jack said with a confident nod. Making their way through the building attached to the tower's base, they passed through a few doors and made it to the main hall at the base of the tower. Peeking through the door, the pair could see a Baroque staff floating in the middle of the room. So this is where I come in, Jack whispered with a grin as he boldly walked out into the hall. Bert's eyes widened in shock seeing this. Where are you going? He hissed as he failed to pull Jack back into the hiding spot. Don't worry, boss. This is why I was a requirement for the job. I may not have a lot of smarts, but I do have this. Without a moment's hesitation, Jack reached out and took the staff in his hands. The tower immediately began to shake as he brought the staff down on his knee, snapping it in two. Why did you do that? Boss, the job was to dispose of the staff. You thieves were just a way to get to the damn thing. How very interesting, a voice that oozed eloquence said from above the pair. I was under the impression that staves like mine could not be damaged by conventional means. Looking up, the pair could see the mage they had been hired to rob descending the stairs. The arch-magos of the theocracy, a renowned apprentice of Lord Gunterian, said to be the closest to matching Lord Sloth other than his former master. I must say it is a unique experience to see what was thought impossible to be possible. Terror filling his heart, Bert began shuffling towards the front door. We will be making our way out of here now. Oh, but you came all this way. It would be a shame to see you both leave. No. We cannot impose on you any further, Bert insisted as he took Jack by the scruff of his collar. What you doing, boss? The guy's defenseless now. He can't cast magic without the magic stick. Bert didn't know why himself. Logically, he knew the man before him could no longer cast a spell. He knew they should be safe so long as he didn't call guards. But despite this logic, every cell in his being was screaming run. Come now. You should know at the very least threaten to kill me. You've been doing it for decades, calling me a traitor for siding with the Holy Continent. And you are one, Jack barked. Oh, you must be the Academy agent they attached on. Bert again tried to pull Jack towards the door. Jack, let's go. Nah, boss. Your job was to get me in here, and you did your job well. I, however, have an extra mission. Kill this human traitor and be done with him. And here I am without my staff, both in the magical and service kinds. I would have offered you a cup of tea otherwise. Hearing this, Jack stopped trying to pull away from Bert. You don't fear your death? No, I just don't fear you. Jack finally began to allow Bert to pull him towards the door. Something was very, very wrong. The man before them should be without power. He had been born mana projection deficient, yet he was, if anything, too confident. You see, my master, lunatic that he is, taught me many things. Like the most worthwhile moment to strike is when your enemy thinks their trap has sprung. We gotta go now, Jack barked, as both he and Bert ran out the main doors of the tower, only to turn around and see the mage standing in the doorway. You see, you were right in a way. That thing you smashed was a magic stick, but there are more ways to make a staff than just with wood. As if to explain his meaning, he touched the doorframe. At that moment, the pair felt terror, which could not be described as they looked up at the tower, where runes and carvings beginning to shine upon its surface. It was now that they realized their folly. The building itself would function as a staff. I will be sure to drink a toast in your memory, gentlemen, for I shall show those undead monsters that gave up their humanity what a real human mage can accomplish.